Hi, my name's Holly Martineau, and I am the Amity Knitter. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Amity stands for the town in the movie Jaws, which I firmly believe is the greatest film ever made. So Amity, as you know, means friendship. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that today. I had an amazing trip to the New England Fiber Festival, had so much fun, ran into several friends and made several new friends. And I found myself quoting Jaws several times. Amity, as you know, means friendship. And my next favorite quote of the day was, "I'm going to need a bigger bag." So that was the theme for the day. I will share more about the festival later, but first I wanted to share a video of one of the amazing demonstrations that I had an opportunity to see, and it was sheep shearing. Learned so much, could not possibly have filmed the entire presentation, but I got a beautiful video of the shearing and a little bit of the introduction, so I hope you enjoy it.
Anyway, so welcome to this event. I thank you all for being here and supporting this event. These kinds of events are important for our little community of fiber enthusiasts, people who raise sheep, and you're supporting local businesses and small businesses, and so it's great that you're all here. So this is my second year of doing the shearing demonstrations down here, and as you'll see when I get started, the actual shearing process only takes a few minutes. So since I've got your attention, I can tell you a little bit about the process and the reasons why we do it and how we do it. And if there's any questions, feel free to ask, because I love answering people's questions. So one of the topics that I could discuss is the timing of shearing, because I'm sure there's people that are concerned that we're shearing, if today's the 2nd of November, why would we be shearing sheep right now? And so if you're not familiar with the breeds of sheep that we raise, or the management practices that farmers have, or the needs of those sheep, it would seem a little strange to be shearing here going into winter. So to answer that quickly, sheep don't need a full fleece to stay warm in the winter. So these sheep are going to have access to a barn all winter, and the wool is still growing. It's growing back quite quickly, and even just a little bit of wool for their protection from the elements is all they really need for their own health. So the amount of wool that most sheep grow is actually a little unnatural, because humans started domesticating sheep about 12,000 years ago, and through selective breeding, we've created all these breeds of sheep that require the humans to shear them, as they can no longer shed on their own. Now there are some breeds of sheep in domestication that don't require any shearing, and there's a category of breeds that we would call the hair sheep. So if you were here for the big fair back in September, some of those breeds were here on display, such as the Katahdins or the Dorpers. And those sheep are more like the sheep in the wild, where whatever they grow for fiber, it's a really coarse, hairy kind of fiber, they're able to shed when it gets warm in the spring. So they'd be just like the sheep in the wild. So there's another misconception that all sheep are being raised for their wool. Well, those hair sheep, they're primarily for their meat. And as the wool markets declined over the years, some of those breeds have become quite popular. So as far as the timing of shearing, the rest of the breeds in domestication are breeds that do require our assistance. We've bred them this way, and so you could say that the amount of wool they grow is actually a little unnatural. So with those other breeds of wool sheep in domestication, we have some that would require a once-a-year shearing, and others that would require a twice-a-year shearing. So it depends on a few things: the market for your wool, the length requirements for the wool, and how fast those sheep are able to grow their wool. So to give you a good example of a breed that needs to be sheared twice a year, we have a lot of Icelandic sheep in this part of the country right now. And the Icelandic sheep grow super fast over the summer, and we really need to shear them twice a year, because if we let it go an entire year back till the spring, it would get long and matted and very uncomfortable for the sheep. Yeah, the interesting thing with the Icelandic breed is, compared to a lot of other breeds, it's not really an even growth throughout the year. Like I said, it doesn't grow as fast over the winter, and it grows super fast over the summer. So even people that raise Icelandics may not realize, okay, we really want to be on that twice-a-year schedule. I had somebody decide not to shear in the fall one year because their mill told them that their spring fleeces were too short for yarn. So only shear them once a year. But what they didn't realize is that rate of growth changes throughout the year. And even though those spring fleeces were short, they really need to be done twice a year. So that's an example of twice a year. And then a lot of breeds only grow, say, 3 to 4 inches in a year. We only want to shear them once, especially if we're sending that wool off to be processed. So the mills will have a length requirement, 2.5 inches long, and then sometimes they can't process it if it's over 5 or 6 inches long. So we need to understand the breed of sheep we're raising to determine how often we're shearing them. There's been a little fight going on in this pen ever since the first one got shorn. So another little tidbit about sheep is they oftentimes don't recognize each other after being shorn. So they're all ewes, and I'm not concerned about their safety, but if it were a pen of rams that we just sheared, we might be concerned about their fighting afterwards. And so we want to put them back into a small pen so they can't back up too far when they fight. And as far as the shearing goes, those pregnant ewes are in their best body condition that they'll be in. Once they've started raising their lambs and all the nutrition is going into the milk, they'll lose body condition, and you've got bones sticking out, so it's much tougher shearing. And from a wool quality standpoint, pre-lamb shearing is going to be a much healthier, nicer fleece. So one thing that can happen from raising lambs is they can get a break in the wool. So anytime a sheep is sick, has a fever, the nutritional changes from raising lambs, the wool can actually stop growing, and then when it resumes, we have a weak spot somewhere in that fleece. And so if they do get that weak spot, but they were shorn prior to lambing, that weak spot will just be in the tip of the next year's fleece. It won't be right in the middle somewhere, where that, now instead of having nice 3-inch staple length, you pull on it and it comes apart, and so that weak wool won't make it through processing. So, any questions about the timing of shearing? She's one that had gone to the shows, and she sort of has a shaped fleece on her, so it's going to be a little bit of variation in length. In the show, it's really more of a beauty contest, and so they want to have a nice level back and trimmed in certain places. So she's been handled a lot, but never gone through this more once or twice a year harvesting process. So the very first thing is I got to sit her down. I'm not strong enough on most sheep to just pick them up and put them down, so there's got to be a technique that works for any sheep. And this is a technique that I feel all sheep farmers should have, because there's going to be times where you want to maybe examine their feet or do something with them that it's good to be able to restrain them and get them down off their feet. So all I have to do is with my left hand out on her chin and my right hand on her hip, I'll just turn the head and see she just loses her balance and falls over. Right into my lap. So with especially with the larger sheep, we want to try to tip them down pretty close to where we need them, because like I said, we've got to be right next to the machine to shear. And I don't want to be dragging a 300-pound sheep from way over there, so it's good to be able to put them right down into place. She's pretty relaxed. So once they're down off their feet, I'm going to take a hold of this right front foot, in a tuft of wool on her chest, and just drag her right back into place. And so as far as moving them in the beginning, it's a lot easier to come back like that than it would be to try to scooch her forward. So that's why the gate is on that side of the shearing machine. So I don't want to sit her directly on her tailbone, because that might be uncomfortable, so she's actually going to be a little bit on the right side. And while I've got this right front leg, I'll just tuck it back behind my leg. And now I should be able to just control them with just my feet and legs, sort of like the barber chair. So the technique always starts on the belly. That belly wool is always shorter and dirtier, so we want to take that off first. Hers is very short because I think that was sheared all the way for her for the show. And ones that like this breed, the Corriedales that have wool on their lower legs, I'll actually start and just take this lower leg wool off before I take care of the belly. So this lower leg wool is going to have a lot of hair mixed in it, so it's not as good as the rest of the fleece. Now I'll start on this side of the belly. The belly is a very important position because there's some dangerous areas. We want to make sure we know if we're working with a male or a female. There's different sensitive areas around here that I have to look out for. So that's the belly wool. And now I can start out on the back legs, the inside portion of these back legs. See how she's got her leg tucked up? I can straighten it just by pushing right down on her kneecap. And now I've got a nice long straight leg to come right out the end of it. Now I'm going to start turning my feet so that I can be bending straight over as I do this first back leg. And you'll notice that in every position, the wool is always falling away from me, so it's not ever in my way. I want to keep that leg straight, so I'll keep my left hand here on her knee. And now I'm coming up to around the tail area. Very important to clean up around the tail. We don't want any wool left over that's going to have manure attached to it. Okay, that's the second position. Before I move into the third position, I'll take off this top knot. And now I'll sit her up and just step between her back legs. Come right up the neck. And under the chin. And as I'm moving her through this shoulder position, I'm going to start to be turning her so that I don't get tangled up in that shaft. And to turn her, all I have to do is pull my right foot back a little. So by the time I finish this front leg, she's turned all the way with her head down over here. So I'm just keeping her balanced here. The toe of my left foot is right there on the other side. Just keeping her off the ground enough that she doesn't think she can stand up. I'll hold that head right against my knee. Once I've cleared out this side of her face, I'll start coming down the back side of the neck and just roll that head right between my legs. So you can see that shearing, I'm really using all four of my limbs at once. So it's really a kind of a full body exercise. So the reason the head is behind me is I've got a nice flat surface here on this left side. There's no wrinkly skin there. So once I'm down to the flank, I can bring the head back up and just let it rest into me for the rest of the shear. And because that comb is always covered in wool, I'm really going more by feel than by sight. And if I did enough on the first side, I should be almost done. And that's it. So she's pretty cooperative for her first time. Now you can really see that lanolin that's on her skin. You see that orange color. If you were to hose her off, she'd be bright white, but she still has a lot of that brown. You can see the grease on my hand. So if anybody wants to come and feel her, you're welcome to.
So I hope you really enjoyed the video of Erin shearing as much as I had making it. I had such a great time. It was so great to see his shearing, but also his presentation, which was in great length. It was probably 12 to 15 minutes. So it was fabulous. I could not have taped the whole thing. I'm sorry for that. But Aaron is located in Cummington, Massachusetts. He's about 40 minutes northwest of me. And at the end of his presentation, I had desperately wanted to get a chance to meet him personally, and introduce myself and talk about Amity Knitters, and my hope to have him on as an interview very soon. So I will be reaching out to him. He has quite the fan club of farmers and kids and everybody who was there watching. There were probably 150 people watching the shearing. It was fabulous. So I was really really fabulous to have a chance to do that. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe to my channel. I'm so happy to be doing this. It has been a dream for 3 years, and I'm thrilled that I get to share this video with all of you. Thank you so much. Amity, as you know, means friendship. Keep coming back.